On a tense night, air raid sirens blared across Israel. From Haifa to the Negev, residents rushed to shelters. This was no drill. Iran had launched a major missile attack, escalating regional tensions and drawing the world's attention. Israel's multi-layered defense, Iron Dome, David's Sling, Arrow, sprang into action, lighting up the night sky with interceptors. Official reports quickly claimed near-total success, 99% of projectiles intercepted, minimal damage, and a message of strength. The government's narrative was clear: Israel's shield was impenetrable, and the public could breathe easy. For a moment the story held resilience, technological prowess, and a sense of security. But cracks soon appeared. Independent analysts and journalists began to challenge the official story. Satellite images and social media videos showed fires at an airbase and damage to a commercial building, evidence that contradicted government statements. The public's relief turned to suspicion as these images spread. The government's psychological shield, controlling information to maintain morale, was being tested by the digital age. Discrepancies multiplied, and the flawless defense narrative unraveled in real time. Online sleuths and concerned citizens pieced together a more troubling reality. The night meant to showcase Israel's invincibility instead exposed the fragility of its official story. Questions about transparency and the true cost of the assault grew louder. The government's attempt to project strength now risked eroding public trust. In the age of instant information, the truth could not be contained. The real battle was not just in the skies but over the narrative itself. Israel's shield had been tested, and so had its credibility. By morning, the confident tone from Israeli officials had faded. The IDF revised its claims, admitting some missiles had penetrated defenses and that damage was more significant than first reported. It became clear a key airbase had been hit, contradicting earlier reassurances. The shift exposed that initial reports were overly optimistic, if not misleading. Public trust began to erode as the story changed. News outlets highlighted the discrepancies, fueling debate and anxiety. The conversation shifted from victory to vulnerability. Soon the government went silent, citing national security and refusing further details. This blackout only fueled speculation and conspiracy theories. The silence was interpreted as a sign that the reality was worse than admitted. The government's attempt to control the narrative had backfired, creating a crisis of credibility. In the digital age, concealing the truth is a losing battle. The psychological impact was profound. Faith in leadership and the military was shaken. The sense of absolute security, once underwritten by technology, was now in doubt. The real damage extended beyond hardware, to the national psyche. Iran's breakthrough came from a new tactic: ballistic missiles with cluster warheads. Instead of a few large missiles, each one released dozens or hundreds of smaller submunitions over Israel. This swarm effect overwhelmed Israel's defense systems, which were designed for fewer, larger threats. Iron Dome, Arrow, and David's Sling excel against traditional missiles, but not against a sudden cloud of small, unpredictable targets. The defense network's radars and processors were saturated, forced to choose which threats to intercept. Each interceptor is expensive and limited in number. Iran's strategy forced impossible choices: intercept the main missile early, or try to stop the dispersed submunitions, most of which would slip through. The submunitions were small, hard to track, and fell unpredictably. Iran turned Israel's advanced shield into a shotgun trying to stop a sandstorm. Some projectiles inevitably got through, exposing a critical vulnerability. The attack proved that you don't need a better missile, just a smarter one. Cluster munitions bypassed Israel's core strengths, outthinking rather than outmuscling the shield. The cumulative damage from dozens of small hits was significant, especially at concentrated targets like air bases. This marked a paradigm shift. Clever, low-cost strategies could defeat even the most advanced defenses. The lesson was clear: complex systems have exploitable limits. The age of simple, overwhelming swarms had arrived. The attack was also economic warfare. Each Iranian missile cost far less than the Israeli interceptors used to stop them. A single Iron Dome interceptor costs tens of thousands. Arrow interceptors, millions. Iran's strategy forced Israel to spend hundreds of millions, perhaps billions, in a single night. This economic imbalance is unsustainable if attacks become frequent. The missile shield, once a source of security, now risks becoming a financial liability. Adversaries can drain Israel's resources with waves of cheap projectiles. The psychological impact is deep. High taxes and massive spending no longer guarantee safety. Public confidence erodes and political pressure mounts. The feeling of being under constant economically draining siege is demoralizing. The incident is a wake-up call. Future warfare may favor efficiency over sheer technological might. Iran showed that strategic goals can be achieved without matching an opponent's budget. Israel must now find cost-effective ways to counter swarm attacks, or risk being exhausted by attrition. The attack sent shockwaves worldwide, exposing new vulnerabilities. The US condemned Iran and pledged to replenish Israel's interceptors, reaffirming their alliance. Behind the scenes, American analysts worried about their own defenses against similar swarm tactics. Russia called for de-escalation, but its media highlighted the failure of Western systems. China urged restraint, while quietly denying any role in Iran's new tactics. Europe was divided. The UK and France condemned Iran, Germany called for diplomacy, and others hesitated, fearing wider conflict. The lack of unity left Europe sidelined as major powers took their positions. In the Middle East, Sunni Arab states watched anxiously, seeing the attack as a threat to their own security. Though silent publicly, they likely coordinated with Israel and the US behind the scenes. The successful Iranian strike demonstrated Tehran's growing capabilities, reshuffling regional calculations. Every nation relying on Western air defenses now faced new doubts. The strategic balance in the region had shifted. The world was forced to reconsider the future of missile defense. This incident marks a turning point in modern warfare. For decades, military dominance meant technological superiority. Iran's attack shattered that assumption, proving that clever asymmetric tactics can defeat even the most advanced systems. The key exploiting the weaknesses of complex, expensive defenses with simple, unexpected strategies. Swarms of cheap submunitions or drones can overwhelm systems designed for fewer, larger threats. The barrier to becoming a serious military threat has dropped. Smaller states or groups can now challenge superpowers. This makes the world more unpredictable and dangerous. Psychological and economic warfare are now as important as battlefield victories. Iran's attack created public anxiety, imposed huge costs, and shattered the myth of invincibility. The new face of conflict is persistent, low-grade, and fought with clever tactics and cheap technology. The smartest, not always the strongest, can win. War is no longer just about firepower, it's about adaptability and innovation. The rules of the game have changed. In the aftermath, Israel and its allies face urgent questions. The old playbook is obsolete. Rapid adaptation is essential. Engineers are racing to upgrade radars and command systems to track swarms of small threats. Cheaper interceptors and directed energy weapons like lasers are now top priorities. But technology alone isn't enough. Intelligence must improve to detect and destroy launchers before attacks begin. Offensive cyber warfare and preemptive strikes may become more common. Transparency is also vital. The government's mishandling of information eroded trust. Honest, rapid communication is now a strategic asset. Admitting vulnerabilities and showing adaptation is more powerful than projecting invincibility. This is a global challenge. Every nation with high-tech defenses is re-evaluating its vulnerabilities. The new arms race is for smarter software, efficient interceptors, and resilient networks. Success will go to those who adapt and innovate fastest. In modern warfare, learning and evolving is the ultimate weapon. The world stands at a crossroads. Israel's exposed vulnerability could trigger massive retaliation or spark reflection. Escalation risks a regional war, drawing in global powers and causing devastation. But this crisis could also open the door to renewed diplomacy. The attack proved there's no perfect shield, only the illusion of one. Recognizing mutual vulnerability might force leaders to seek negotiation over destruction. The choice is not Israel's or Iran's alone. The international community must act. The US can urge restraint, Russia and China can push for de-escalation, and Europe must find a unified voice. The stakes are global. War would have catastrophic consequences. This moment demands courage and clarity. Will exposure of weakness lead to wider war, or to a new understanding of shared fragility? The answer will be written in the coming weeks, in capitals across the world. The world watches, hoping for wisdom over war.